Hello everybody, Darko here from Split Polygon. Welcome to Maya Quick Bits. Today we're going to look at how we can use Mesh as a modeling tool. So I have a couple of objects here. If I show, so this is just a polygon primitive solid or a soccer ball. If you go shift right click, you can get soccer ball, gears, pipe, helixes, all kinds of stuff. And I'm gonna take this guy and maybe scale it and move it out of the way. Alright, and I have a cylinder and a sphere, which I've set up already. And it's a basic cylinder with 8 sides, and I just deleted the caps. And inside I have a sphere, which is had by 8 by 8 subdivisions as well. So, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the cylinder, go to Animation, Mesh, Create Mesh Network, option box. So if I reset this, by default it's going to be set to mesh. I want instance because I want these guys to be instance of this. So I'm going to click instancer. Distribution type is not really important because we're going to change this anyway, so just click apply and close. And we get a linear distribution of a mesh network. If I select the mesh network 1, we can go to attribute editor, and here we have our first node, which is the distribute node. This is the one we're going to focus on today. So we have a linear distribution because we have a distribution type set to linear. Duh. So if we change these to mesh, we can grab, it's going to say, down there it's going to say, can you please give me a mesh to scatter on? So you can just select your solid, middle click on the solid, and drag it into the input mesh. And boom, we have a scattered cylinder. Now, our original cylinder seems to disappear, but actually it's still there, just hidden. It's right over there. Alright, so I'm going to select the mesh, and you have a couple of ways you can scatter on meshes. So if you just increase the points, it will just scatter randomly. And then you have scattering by vertex, which if we look at our wireframe, it picks a vertex and it places that cylinder. Pretty neat. And then what we're going to use today is scatter by edges. So if I do that, now it's going to scatter these and form this interesting shape. So if I select our cylinder and show it, if I do any kind of modification, it's a live update, which is very nice, which means I can scale these guys. But there's a better way to scale this, because if the edges were not the same length and we scale these guys down, they will not meet properly. So instead of scaling it like this, I can select the mesh and I can set enable scaling over here. And then I have this slider, which is going to scale, but also it's going to respect the length of the edges. So some of them is going to be shorter and some of them is going to be longer. Alright, so this is the basic principle of what we're going to do today. If I scale this down, I can just take this original mesh and hide it, and we get this nice frame modeled in an instant, pretty much. So if I hide this guy, select the sphere, and create mesh network, and if I select our solid, which is hidden but it's still there, so if I select my mesh 2, which is my sphere, set the distribution type to mesh again, set the scatter to vertex this time, and maybe grab that sphere and drag it into the input mesh. Yeah, wrong. Select my solid, drag that instead. Alright, let me show that. What did I do here? So input mesh is solid. All right. What we need to do is, if you see, we only have 10 points, but we have a lot more vertices. So you can just slide this guy and it's going to start populating all the vertices. Or if you want to be exact, you can just say flood mesh, and that's going to make exact number of vertices with exact number of copies of that sphere with the number of vertices. So now we got something like this instead, which is very cool. All right, so how can this be useful? Well, I have a couple of examples here. So if I go back to, I'm gonna go back to Mesh editor, open that guy up. Now I have these two guys over here, and this thing gives me the ability to switch on and off mesh network. So I can just switch off the spheres for now and go to this one. And I have a couple of other objects that I can use. For instance, I have this guy. So if I go to mesh 1, grab the helix, change this, and then flood mesh, and there we go. I get this. So very, very useful. And you can even scale these guys to a point where they meet, and then you can just merge. When you convert this to an actual polygon, you can just merge them, and you can have one continuous mesh going all the way around. Alrighty, so this is kind of useful, but you know, it might give you some interesting ideas of what you can do with it. I used this method recently on a project, and what I did, as I'll show you, I have this proxy mesh that I built. So I was making a glass garden, so I needed to put frames around the entire object, and everything else inside would be glass. So I got this proxy mesh. Let's scale that up. Open up mesh distribute node and grab my proxy mesh instead. And look at that. I got the frames of my glass garden done in an instant. How cool is that? And then this allows you for infinite possibilities. I can take that cylinder and show it here. If I start doing any kind of modification to this cylinder, the entire object changes instantly. If I select these guys and do it like that, I go here and I have a different profile now. All right. And then if you want to connect these guys, you can play with the scaling so they meet nicely like that. And then let's play around with the sphere again. So if I select this, still remembering the solid. So if I go here, I can grab my proxy, drag that in. Oh, I missed that. Proxy, there you go. Drag that in. And now I have spheres. And I can, because flood mesh is already ticked, it found the new number of vertices. And then I can take that sphere and again, can modify it. I can scale it. I can do whatever I want. So that's it for today. It was a very quick tutorial, but I just wanted to kind of show you how can you use Mesh for your procedural modelings. It makes your life a whole lot easier. You can take one of these and model a nice profile with, let's say, this was like a metal and then like a rubber piece inside, and you can like make that all nice and good and just make one side of it on the center. And you can actually, this is the coolest thing about this, is if I take my proxy and if I decide that I need let me grab my proxy, yes, if I decide that I need one more, I can just extrude and it automatically is going to regenerate for me. That's the power of this. And I can make different versions and shapes. and it all updates live. Alright guys, and then once I was done with this, I selected and applied the transparent material, and I got my glass garden all done. Right, thank you guys for watching. I hope you find this useful, and I'll see you in the next Maya Quick Bits tutorial. Alright, see you later.